watching Business Trends Today exclusively on ASBN.
Employee engagement has fallen to its lowest level in a decade, and more workers aren't leaving their jobs. Instead, experts say that they're experiencing what's being called quiet cracking, staying in their roles while becoming increasingly burned out and disengaged. What does that mean for business owners? And more importantly, what can leaders do to turn things around? Joining us today is executive leadership coach and expert, Mr. Josh Block. You've seen him here before on ASBN. He's the president of Block Imaging, founder of Cube Mobile Imaging, and author of the new book, People Matter at Work. So thanks so much for joining us on the show once again, Josh.
I'm glad to be with you.
Sure. So let's start with the term quiet cracking. What does it mean, and how is it different from quiet quitting we've heard so much about in the last few months?
Yeah, the only thing worse than disenchanted people slipping out the back door is disenchanted people staying, right?
Yeah.
Is this quiet quitting, is this not really sharing a lot about what's going wrong, but potentially just becoming disenfranchised and,
Sure.
and exiting. And now we have this pressure that's coming in and leading to quiet cracking where, hey, I don't really want to make a move, but I also don't want to bring my best either. So I'm just going to kind of stay.
That is a business owner's worst nightmare, right? That they might have a team full of quiet crackers.
Yeah, it is. It's certainly not what we're looking for.
Yeah. Gallup says employee engagement is at its lowest point in a decade, as I mentioned in the opening. What do you believe so many leaders are missing, and what's really happening inside their organizations?
I think there are two dynamics at play. The first is the me cycle, which I talk about in People Matter at Work, is bosses looking out for themselves, employees returning the favor, and it just being a miserable experience where everybody's kind of looking into a mirror. And the second dynamic that flows out of us looking out for ourselves is this short-term mindset, is quarterly earnings, which even now we're seeing more and more monthly targets that aren't set by team members and aren't even necessarily set by business leaders, but oftentimes set by boards or by private equity groups.
Sure.
And we're just, whenever we drive short-term performance, it tends to lead to some backsided weaknesses.
Right, exactly. We see that often. In your new book, People Matter at Work, you argue that many traditional leadership practices are actually contributing to disengagement. What are some of the biggest mistakes leaders are making?
I think you save most of your feedback for performance assessments once a year, and you kind of load up the gun and all your ammo is just deployed at one time in the year, and it just makes it so difficult for a person to receive it. It puts a lot of pressure on those moments.
Sure.
And so whenever we can move from that annual assessment, which is important, but really should just be reiterating everything that we've talked about in one-on-ones throughout the year. So that's one of the things that comes to mind. But again, the short-term mindset is working toward the 30th of the month, trying to push and pressure and being driven by these short-term goals, oftentimes weakens our hard conversations and really focusing on developing people.
Yeah. Over time, it just kind of becomes ho-hum. Like, all right, here comes Jim with the demands that we got to close the month out strong. And it's just much more of the same, right?
For sure. If you just thought about each day you're running to the grocery store, running 50 yards at a time versus really developing a company and thinking through more of a marathon lens.
Yeah. How often is too often to have one-on-ones with your team?
For some roles, especially newer roles or promoted roles, I oftentimes will meet with someone weekly.
Yeah.
But bi-weekly tends to be a pretty good sweet spot if you're diligent about it.
Yeah.
Every 4 weeks would be an absolute minimum. And one of the challenges with every 4 weeks is something comes up. There's a holiday or there's a vacation or some meeting kind of pushes it.
Yeah.
And so instead of meeting every 4 weeks, you really start meeting every 12 weeks.
Sure.
And that's when we've really lost track of one-on-ones as a whole.
That's right. And don't make the mistake that I often make, which is to say, now, Mr. or Mrs. Employee, we're going to have these talks, every month around the same time of the month to see, what improvements have been made, where we can help you, talk about some of the wins and losses and what have you. And then, of course, the next month it doesn't happen. You went away, you didn't reschedule it. And then by the third or fourth month, they're like, nah, it's not going to happen. That's a mistake, right?
one-on-ones are a fundamental part of leadership. And there are some people who say, I have too many direct reports to have one-on-ones. And I'd say that, wow, if you have 15 or 18 direct reports, you're basically saying that me not having a one-on-one with you is better leadership than if I promoted someone else in the organization to take half of you. And so one-on-ones are just so incredibly important, and I'd say really foundational to leadership.
Yeah, I agree. What are some of the early signs, warning signs that an employee may be quietly cracking, even if they're still showing up and getting the job done?
Yeah, I would say avoiding one-on-ones, right? As they start to cancel meetings, laughter is a great indicator of health. We've talked about that before. And whenever you have the absence of laughter, whenever you have reduced communication, you have missing deadlines, you have poor performance or weak output, all of these things are indicative of something is going wrong.
Yeah, for sure. If a business owner wanted to begin reversing this trend over the next 90 days, what are 2 or 3 practical changes that they should make first?
Yeah, first is to acknowledge we have a problem. That's always the starting point for change is, hey, we're not where we want to be. And then to begin casting a vision for, hey, I think one of my goals for People Matter at Work is that we break the statistic, that this 80% disengagement, that, hey, what do you think, whether you know it or it's anecdotal, is to actually say, like, I think we're at 50% engagement. Say, I want to become an organization that has high engagement. And so I'd say starting, it sounds like a shameless plug, but People Matter at Work is a great starting point and really shares my story of transitioning into leadership unexpectedly and then tripping across 3 T's that have really changed the game in our culture.
So let's talk about that. What do you hope business leaders take away from People Matter at Work that they can apply in their own organizations?
Yeah. So for the person who has been promoted unexpectedly, right? They were trained to be an accountant or an IT team member or whatever their space is. They were trained for 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, and then they were tapped on the shoulder one day and said, "You're now a leader." Yeah. And so for that person who needs tools, I hope that the book is helpful for them in that space. And then for the person who's maybe been leading for 20 years, is frustrated with the next generation and kind of disenchanted with entitlement and really initially cared for people and now resents them, I hope that this provides courage for them to lead, like a new belief that you can actually care for people and impact performance.
Yeah, that's great. We're going to make it very easy for all of you to get your own copy of the book. There's a link right below the video that you're watching right here at ASBN.com, which we highly recommend you get your own copy. This can be a game changer for many leaders out there. And the timing of this book couldn't be better. I think all of us have experienced quiet cracking among our team from time to time. I'm embarrassed to tell you that maybe I have as well with my associates. But that's why this book, you need it. You need to read it, and you need to have it as probably even a reference book, right, Josh, from time to time. So.
I'd love for it to be that for leaders who find themselves in the same situation I found myself when I became president.
That's right. Josh Block, executive leadership expert, president of Block Imaging, founder of Cube Mobile Imaging, and author of the new book, People Matter at Work. Josh, thanks so much for joining us today. I know our viewers are going to get a lot out of your visit with us, so thank you.
Great to be with you.
Thanks.
Thanks for watching Business Trends Today exclusively on ASBN.